Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm excited I get to share with you a project for Gerda Steiner Designs using this sweet little stamp set. It's the I Just Miss You puppy stamp set. It's a smaller one, but boy, it is so sweet. I just love this little guy and his little bed. The sentiment on here is in two parts. One says I just miss you, and then the other one says a lot. So we're going to make a fun little card using this. A miss you cards I use a lot because I miss my family a lot. Anyway, I'm going to stamp my image with Memento TUXEDO black ink. Both of my images here, my sentiment and my little doggy. And I'm going to leave this in my Misty, and we're going to stamp that puppy one more time, but this time on some Post-it note paper. Well, it's not really paper, it's a roll. It was on my desk. If you have masking paper, you could do the same thing. But I doubled it up actually so I could cut around it. I'm going to be using the negative part of the mask, so I wanted it a little bit extra wider. I'm just going to use my scissors and fussy cut just the bedding out of my Post-it note here. And we're going to, when we cut it out, we want to make sure we trim all the way to the black line. Once this is cut out, I'm going to add one more piece because that one side was really thin. But we'll set this aside, and then we're going to color in our cute little image. Now, image was super easy to color in. I just used a few shades of brown, and then I did add a little bit of pink to his cheeks, but you couldn't really tell. But I'm going to zoom in, and I did list the colors. I left them over there on the left-hand side for you guys. Here, I'm just picking out the markers I want to use. And then for his nose, I didn't list that, but I used E79 for his nose. We're starting off with our lightest shade, which is E99. We're just going to cover this entire little puppy. And then next we're going to do a little bit of shading with our darkest color, which was E99. We're going to make him a cute little golden puppy. We have a black lab, and he has a bedding, and he's actually had quite a few beddings, and he likes to tear them up. I don't know why, but I mean, they weren't cheap. But boy, we find these little beds when we come home from work. Sometimes there'll be fluff all over the yard because he just eats them. We finally ended up almost taping it down on the inside of his little doghouse. He hasn't been able to get that one out yet. So anyway, that's my little story. He's done colored. I love this little guy peeking over his bed. Now we're going to go ahead and take the mask, and making sure it's lined up on those lines, I'm going to cover up the puppy. And my mask broke in two, but that's okay, no worries. We're just going to place the second piece right on top. And I wanted to add a little bit of a pattern to his bedding. So we're going to use some Oxide inks to add some color, and then a stencil. I'm just using a stencil that I have in my stash. It's a plaid stencil. Any kind of stencil that you have would work. But starting off with my Spice Marmalade, I'm doing a little bit of blotchy shading over my stencil. And then here's where I thought I better tape it down because it was shifting. Next, we're going to go in with some picked raspberry. I think these two colors blend beautifully together, and they create a real pretty corally, orangish corally color. Once we have that done, and both of these I did blotchy coloring because I wanted two tones on that plaid background. So that's his bedding. We're just going to remove the mask. And I think he's so cute. Okay, I'm going to take my scissors, and he is very easy to fussy cut around. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a white border while I fussy cut him out. And then he's basically ready to go. His bedding's all done. After he's cut out, I'm going to use a Thought Bubble die that I have in my stash. I've had this for a while, and I couldn't tell you where I got it, but it was the perfect size. So I'm going to die cut out the word a lot with the Thought Bubble. Now for our background, we need a place for the first part of our sentiment. So I'm taking a panel that's 3 inches by 5.5 inches long or tall. I went over it with my anti-static powder tool, And then I'm stamping the first part of the sentiment that says, I just miss you. I'm using my watermark ink, and I'm going to go up and down this entire panel. I end up stamping it 8 times. And after I stamped it and heat embossed it, I realized that it wasn't a Bristol Smooth cardstock. It was my Cougar Digital, which doesn't blend very well with Oxide inks. So I had a little bit of trouble blending, but it ended up working out okay. I'm just going to take my heat gun and melt all that embossing powder. I added white embossing powder to my watermark ink. Okay, I think you can barely see that. Now, I think blue with a coral is just a beautiful color combination. So I have some Tumbled Glass Distress Oxide ink, and originally this was the only color that I was going to use. I'm just going over my entire background with my Tumbled Glass. And then after I got this done, I thought, you know what, we're going to bring in a little bit more of an ombre look. So starting off, I brought in some faded jeans. We're going to add that to the very top of our panel, and then underneath that we're going to add some broken china. And I think these 3 colors create like the perfect blue ombre effect. So that's my background. I'm going to take this to my paper trimmer and trim off the edges just slightly so it's a little bit closer to the sentiment. Okay. I wanted to bring in a little bit more of that coral color, so I'm bringing out the Spice Marmalade once more, and then I'm going to add whatever's left over from my picked raspberry blending tool. I'm going to add that to my Spice Marmalade on this piece of cardstock, and then I'm going to go to the paper trimmer and trim it down. I wanted a little bit of a strip of that orange to the left of my sentiment here. Okay, I'm playing around with the placement, and I think this is going to work out great. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to my card base. My card base today is standard A2 size card base, and I'm leaving a little bit of a white border. Once we have that adhered, we're going to flip over our sentiment panel and add some foam tape behind it. We'll just add a couple strips. And then this is going to go overlapping that corally color. Okay, now we're going to add our little puppy. I was playing with the placement with him, and I thought he looked best when he was overhanging on the right, just a hair. So I'm going to add some double-sided foam squares. We're going to place him to the lower portion of our card base, and you can see I'm just overhanging it just a little bit. And I'm going to add some extra foam squares underneath the portion that's not on that blue I Just Miss You panel. This way everything's nice and even. We're going to trim off our puppy bed there, and then we're going to add our A-Lot sentiment. We're going to just add a couple foam squares and place that right above our little puppy's head. Lovely. Now I'm going to add a few crystal gems. These are buttercream jewels. I thought they went really well with that puppy bedding and then that edge on the border. We just added a few here and there. And then I'm also going to bring in a white gel pen. I noticed that my little puppy's eyes had color in them, so I got to fix it with my white gel pen. Super easy fix. I went over the whites of his eyes to brighten them up, and then I did take a black marker and dotted the black of my little puppy's eyes. Now we're going to go over our plaid lines with some Nuvo glitter drops. Again, these are White Blizzard. Excuse me. I'm going to add a little bit of sparkle to that plaid white area. And then I thought while we're at it, we're going to add a stripe of the glitter drops along that that orange side. And this was really easy to do because I have that I Just Miss You panel popped up, so just leaning that glitter nozzle against that edge made it a perfectly straight line. So we have some sparkle on the side there. But that's my card for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are interested in this sweet little stamp set, I'll list it down below for you. But I wish you a lovely day, and we will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.